In this session, we're going to touch on integrate printing with Android SDK for Android devices. The agenda for the session will be looking at what are the printing solution and which SDK we should be using. Finally, we'll walk through some of the sample code in the SDK on how the API are being used for the printings. So for you to print on the mobile printers or with the mobile computers, basically Honeywell provide various way of printing. Just like in this session, we're going to touch on how to print by integrating with the SDK Honeywell provide. We also provide SDK for you to print with your web page as well. That is touched on in the separate session. And of course, if you do not want to integrate any of the SDK, you can also print with the print services, which again, you can look at the separate video that touches how to print with print services. There are a few SDK that you can look at due to the fact that Honeywell acquired several printer company over the past few years. So by doing so, we also acquire a few of those languages. However, the most common printer language among these printers, it will be the Escape P, which is a 9 print and easy print command. These are supported in most of the printers that we have today. And for the SDK, we have the Honeywell Mobility SDK for Android. The SDK support any direct printing and also with the dynamic graphic printing as well. And likewise, to print to this printer using the DataMag Oneo SDK, it also support both the direct command and dynamic graphics for these printers. As for DPL, which is DataMag programming languages, this primarily work on the RP and IL series of the mobile printers. So if you are using the Mobility SDK for Android, basically you can only print with the direct command. If you want to print with graphics, you need to write your own graphics generator to generate the right graphic format for the DPL. As for the DataMax or new SDK, it does come with the direct command and also the dynamic graphics command for you to generate the graphic required for the DPL. In the Datamax Oneo printer, there is also a language EXPCL, which is XSIM in our printers. So this is supported in the Apex series and also the PR2 and PR3 series. Likewise, if you are using the Mobility SDK for Android, you can only use the direct command. And for graphics, again, you need to create your own graphic converter to download the graphics into the printers. For this, again, the DataMan Oneos SDK will support both the graphics and direct commands. For CPCL, which is CSIM, this is also supported in the RP series, IL series, and also the MPD31. Likewise, in the Mobility SDK, it only support direct command. Same go to the DataMan Oneo SDK too. However, we have a new SDK that come with the MPD31D. This SDK does support graphics printing with the CPCL. However, this SDK currently not available on our download site. If you need that SDK, you can request to the tech support, and we will be able to provide you that SDK. The same apply to the ZPL, ZSIM, also the Escape Post, which is supported in the MPD31. This again is not supported for graphic printing through the Mobility SDK and also the DataMag Oneo SDK. However, it's supported in the MPD31 SDK. All right. So these are the SDK that you can use. So if you ask, which SDK should I use? I think the question go back, which language do you want to print? So if you, and also whether you need dynamic graphics download like signature or some graphics that you're going to download during the printing. If yes, then you need to make sure that the SDK support dynamic graphic printing. If not, if you know how to convert the graphic to the format the printer recognize, then any SDK will work for you. All right, so where to download the SDK? So basically, you go to hsmftp.honeywell.com and log into the website and locate software under the software tools and developer library. That's where you look for the various SDK. And here you can see this is the SDK for Android, which earlier on I mentioned, which primarily support the Escape P and line print mode. The other SDK for DataMax Onion is under the software developer library SDK for printer DataMax Onion SDK. You can see under here. So you can download this version 2.50 underscore Android. This is the latest version currently. All right. Once you download this SDK, you can just unzip them, and we can look at the sample code how the SDK are put together to do the printing for you.
After you download the Honeywell Mobility SDK for Android, open up the zip file, and in the zip file you will be able to find another two zip files. One of them is Android Printing-SDK. Unzip this SDK, and this is what you will get. Alright, so I have unzipped it, and basically inside the Android Printing SDK there are two folders: the document that contain the help file, the API, the description on how to use the API or SDK. So you can open up with a web page. Here you can see that you have all the various classes, the label printer, the inline printer, the printer itself. All these allow you to understand how each of the API works. Alright, if you look at the library, basically here there is a AAR file, which is the library that it go together with your APK. So this one need to be included with your project itself. And there is also a JSON file where define all the printer definition that go with your project as well. Alright, so if you look at the sample, let's start with the 9 printer sample here. So if you open up these 9 printer samples, which I have opened up here, so this is what you will see. So basically this is a 9 printer project, and there are three Java file inside here: capture signature activity, print activity, and signature view. What we will be focusing today will be on the print activity, which is for the printing. If you require to integrate signature capturing in your application, you can make use of the sample source code here, which is very nicely done. So that will allow you to capture the signature and also print to the printer as well. All right, before we go into the source code, one of the dependency of the SDK is the printer JSON file early on we mentioned. So if you go to the SDK, there is this printer underscore profile.json file, and inside your sample, 9 print sample, add source main asset. All right, so this is a file that you need to look at. So if you open up this file, this is how it look like. All right, so this contain all the various printer parameter setting that required to communicate with the printers. And the reason why we want to look at this file now is because we're going to add on two printer. One of them is the RP2, and the other one is the MPD31, as they are not inside here. In fact, you need to add another one, which is RP4. But let's just add the RP2 MPD31 here for the testing of this SDK. And if you don't know what to do here, basically the RP2 and the PR2 have the same setting. So basically, you just need to copy this thing and just need to edit the label here plus the display name inside here and keep the rest the same. As for the MPD31D, the setting is exactly the same as the PR3. Likewise, change the label and the display name here. Basically, this is what you need to do for the JSON file inside the project. Okay, again, you need to edit the version, the one inside your project file under the asset. Okay, so that when you compile the source code, you will go together with your application. Okay, let's look at the source code now. So this is the print activity source code. Basically, you can see there are all the various widget or object being defined for the activity itself.
But just want to draw your attention to some of the variable here, like the string base64 signature PNG. This basically a string that to contain the image base64 data. As for the JSON command attribute string, this is the one that will capture or load in the printer profile JSON file early on we see here. All right, so that is to keep it so that you can pass it over to the SDK during the compilation. All right. Also, of course, during the testing, you would like to make sure that you set the MAC address according to the printer you're going to test with. For this case, this is some MAC address. And the SDK also supports serial port, and this is the default serial port that being supported, and you can change it according to the serial port defined by the Android system. The other thing that we want to change is the printer ID. Remember earlier on we defined RP2 and MPD31D. So if we are going to test with MPD31D, we just leave it here so that during the testing we don't need to restart or re-enter the ID again. Okay, so the rest of the code here basically just generic Android code, which I will not go through. What I want to draw your attention here is that when you press the print buttons, what will happen? So here basically you create a print task. This is where the SDK come in, right? So the print task here allow you to start the entire printing process. Okay, so let's go into the method here or class here and see what is being done. All right, so this print task is actually an extended async task for the Android. First of all, there was some definition of the message being defined. The key thing is when after these are defined, you want to do some pre-execution setup, which is just to disable some of the button during printing and so forth. And then the main task started here, which is doing in the background. As this is an asynchronous task, it will be in the background. And so what you need to pay attention here is for Bluetooth the MAC address need to be always separated with a colon. So the function here or the if loop here basically ensure that they are colon inside the MAC address. If not, you will insert them for you, and it need to be append to BT colon double slash followed by the MAC address for it to print. Likewise, for serial, you need to append behind with the serial colon double slash, and also for the TCP/IP, the MAC address and the port number. All right. Next, you need to set up the extra setting object and set this to the print activity or that current calling onto this function. And of course, you add on the progress listener, which will update the status of the progress. Then you will start to create the object of the nine print. And here you insert in the JSON command attribute, the printer ID, which is the MPD31D, the printer URL, which is the one we added up here, for the Bluetooth, okay, and the extra setting object that we define. All right. With that, basically you add the progress listener that we have defined up there, and then we will start to try to connect to the printer here. So there's a loop here to try to do the connection to the printer. So the connect function method here basically is to do the connection to the printer via whatever interface you define, the Bluetooth, the serial, the IP. And once the connection established, basically here you can also check for the status whether the printer is ready. If not, you can throw some error or you can just continue. The right graphics here basically create the graphics for the logo. We have a signature and right out to the printer itself. So like for this case, we are actually writing the Honeywell logo for it. So this one basically first of all write the Honeywell logo, and then follow by setting up the various font size and do the printing of the receipt itself. So following here is just sending a command to print the receipt, and when it's done, if the signature is available, we also print the signature as well. So this part is to print the signature,
and then when everything is done, if there is a barcode for you to print, we also print a barcode here, which is printing a code 3 line before you close the printing function below here. So that's all you need to do on the source code perspective in terms of getting the line print to print. All right, so now we have compiled the application, and let's see how the application works. So the first one is the printer ID. Again, by default, earlier on we already set it with MPD31, and the drop-down box here have the selection of Bluetooth, serial, and TCP. All right, and here below is the MAC address for the printers. So if I now click on the sign button, I can sign something on here, and then I do print to the printers. So we started the printing. Let's see how this thing works, right? So you can see that it's printed with the Honeywell, the information of the receipt followed by the signature and the barcode, as you can see here. All right, so that's how the application works for this SDK. So if you now go back to the SDK, as earlier on I mentioned, you can use it for any other languages. Imagine now if you want to print with a DPL or IPL, you can write the IPL DPL command inside here, and it will still send to the printer as long as the printer recognize the languages. Of course, the only differences is the graphics. So if you recall, we send graphics to print the logo, the signature. So the SDK here is using a base 64 compression graphics format for the printers. So this graphics format is only suitable for the 9 print firmware. So if you have any other graphic formats, you will need to either use the other SDK, like for example the DO SDK we're going to touch on later, or you can write your own graphics format function to create a graphic data to send to the printers. Now we're going to look at the other SDK, Datamax Onion SDK. This is a current version that you can download from the portal. Once you download it, you unzip this zip file, and you will have the two folder and some file inside here. Basically, in the document is the same help files as any other SDK. The help file will provide you all the details of all the object and API, how we use it. You just need to click on index, and you will be able to open it. All right, so this is how the help file look like. You can look into all the details, how each of these objects are being defined and works. The other one we have is the sample, which we're going to touch on today. So if we open up the data mat sample DO print, let's take a look at how the app works in the first place before we look at the code. All right. Okay, so this is how when you compile the app, how it look like. It has a option to select between Bluetooth and TCP. You select it, you need to reconfigure, like, for example, the MAC address, for instance. And there's a option for you to select the various languages the SDK support, like Easy Print, 9 Print, DPL, the PCL, LP, and PCL PP also. All right, you can do a print or you can do a query of the printer, which the query will send command to check that the printer is ready. And here you can select 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches print head width. And there are some sample inside here depending on the language that you select. For example, if you select the easy print, there will be a 3 inches, 4 inches, and a barcode sample. And if you select 9 print, you will have a 3 inch, 4 inch, and an image sample. So let's print something and see how it works. Okay, let's do the 9 print with the image sample. Okay, I printed it. Let me show you how it look like. Okay, this is the DO image that is print. All right, let me print another item. Let print the 3-inch samples. Okay, so this is the 3-inch receipt sample being printed. All right, so if you now switch to another language, for instance,
switch to easy print and I do a print. Okay, it's printing. Let me switch back to show you how it works. Okay, so these are all the three sample prints that I just done on the MPD31D. Alright, with that, let's look at the source code. Basically, when you open the source code, there are three of rather four Java file here. The one that you want to focus on is do print main activity. All right, let's go up to the top of the source file here. The main activity, take note that it actually have a runnable implement on it because it's going to run a background thread during the process when you do the print. So just take note of that. The other thing is pretty standard from on the Android perspective. So you can see that all this one because it's to demo all the various languages supported by the SDK. So you have defined all the object and parameter object over here. And of course, you also define the handler to run the thread later on during the process itself. The rest here are all the UI control definition. All right, and on the on create, basically read out, read back some of the setting they save into the file, and so they repopulate all these setting onto the console itself. And same here, here are just defining the spinner setting depending on what you select. Okay, the print or send function. Remember when I press the print buttons, what does it do, right? So basically, this is a key function you need to focus on when you integrate the SDK method to or class to your application. The first thing here you can see that it actually define a byte array of called the print data. This is where it keep all the data definition for your entire print job before it's sent out to the printers. So all these object, will define the print data and put into this print data. So you can see here they started to define all the variable for various languages. So basically if you are using it for easy print, you just need to define this one. If you are doing it for night print, this is what you need to define, right? So just follow this. Likewise, you also define a parameter for each of the languages itself. Okay, then when the printers select the print, you also select what demo you want to print to, right? So for this case, there are 3-inch sample. So you can see that in the when you select the easy print with the 3-inch sample, following will be the code that will be written out on to the print data variable. So you can see this is all what you need to do. Basically, you use the document easy object and write the text into it, and you can change the parameter by or the font, with the parameters setting, and you can also write a image, like for example the logo, for example, right? So this is how you write the image into the easy print. Okay, and once everything finished, you just assign all the data by calling the get document data. All right, so the same apply to for all others sample here, like this is a 4-inch sample, and here is a barcode samples, and same go to the other definition as well, as you can see here. For example, if you are trying to get an image, read an image, so here, basically you load the image into a bitmap, and you then write the image into the line print variable, and then load it onto the print data variable. So that's how you load an external image and print with the line print object. Okay, so again in the line print here is doing the same thing for the 3-inch, for 4-inch, and basically all languages do the same thing, right? So it's pretty straightforward, it's consistent. So what happened after you create the layout or document to print? So at the end of this function here, you can see here you call a new thread to run, and this new thread will start on the activity itself. All right, let's go to the thread itself and see how it works. Okay, so here is a run function.
So you can see first of all, the function enables some control on the interface itself, whether you disable the print button and so forth. And and then you check for the connection that you're going to connect with. Is it a Bluetooth or is it a network connection? All right, once the connection is established, okay, you will start to send out the data. So you can remember that all the data is inside the print data. So here, it's basically a while loop sending 1024 byte at a time out to the printers with some delay in between them. So when done, just close the connection and enable back the control as well, and also show the message that is print success. All right. So basically, that's how the entire SDK is being used to print using the DataMat SDK. If you have any question on the SDK, you can go to support.honeywell.aidc.com. Here you can search for any related articles on the SDK, or you can post a question to the community where they will a team or community member will be able to help you on the SDK question. Alternatively, you can open an incident with the tech support for your question as well. That's all for the session. Thank you.